Hey, it's Friday. You know that means words. Here we go. It's been a
Yeah,
long day. It's time to
yeah,
deploy, and yeah, obviously, as you can tell by my speech, it's the perfect day to do it. No errors here. How are you, Jim?
yeah, good. Actually, tearing my hair out. I changed my password yesterday. My whole key ring on the computer just absolutely blew up, and I haven't been able to do anything all day. So
What are you using for
frustrated.
your manager?
Oh, it's just the OSX one or whatever. But it's
Oh,
not the same
okay.
password as your account or something, and I managed to get them on different passwords, and nothing works. And yeah, anyway,
Hmm.
good fun. The
Yeah,
joys,
yeah,
the joys of computers.
yeah. I don't think I've had that problem. I had to reset my password recently due to corporate policy. But I use a password manager. I don't know any of my passwords. I use one password. Shout out to one password.
Yeah, yeah.
Good Canadian company. Yeah, I use them. I don't know any of my passwords. They're all auto-gen. I'm using up to 100 character passkeys now. So not
Yeah, well,
passkeys, but passphrases. So
yeah, yeah.
that's like a humble brag. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying I
And
don't know
then
what they are.
occasionally you have to type one in.
Yes, so frustrating. The worst. Anyway, this is the show for those who are just joining us and never seen the show before. This is the show where Jim and I go through the latest tech trends and news of the week relative to Octopus, and we talk about it. And so, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, this is an article written by Ian, connecting a project to multiple tenants as a bulk action. So, Ian's one of the program managers, product managers, basically the same thing, but he runs the team that owns tenants to a certain degree, and he's talked a little bit in this blog post about how tenants are now. We have a sort of a bulk action capability inside of Octopus where you can add many tenants to a project, which is awesome. It alleviates you from having to go a lot of in and out, back and forth, using your mouse, trying to connect each tenant to a project. And so now we have these new views that allow you to basically not only see what tenant tags are available. If they have more than three, it will actually collapse that. But you'll also be able to connect tenants in a bulk action to a variety of different projects. So he gracefully gives us an MP, or sorry, a GIF here for us to look at. So this is an example of adding a new tenant to a project, for example. And this is, I guess, the old way in which you would do it. And then now you can connect tenants directly, and you can, well, he's starting to clone tenant here, but basically you can connect a lot of tenants to a lot of projects now, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great bit a little bit cumbersome before. So much
Yep.
easier now.
Yeah, this was for folks who don't use tenants, and you should, but for folks who don't, obviously they won't care. But I think what we tend to see with customers is the more mature customers tend to use more tenants, and it's sort of like a maturity model that you see with Octopus. The first level zero is like no use of tenants. Level five being the most mature, heavy dependency on tenants. So if you're not using tenants today, you should. And so Ian talks about some of the new stuff that we've added to Octopus for supporting that, which is great. We have been running a lot of webinars. We ran one today. We ran one yesterday. We've got some other ones coming up. This is at octopus.com/webinars. We've got Clear Measure, friends of ours, partner of ours, and Jeffrey Palermo, Octopus Insider, will be hosting, talking about integrating post-deploy smoke testing, health monitoring, and automatic environment scaling into deployments with Octopus. So he'll be talking a lot about that. I'll be hosting the 101 monthly series next week, October 5th. So if you have no knowledge of Octopus and you want to get a sort of like a 101 sort of overview, you can check out that. We've got some other ones coming up. We've announced some new ones as well. So Matt Casperson will be hosting Deploying to Kubernetes at Scale with Octopus. Matt's one of our big brains here at Octopus, does a lot with Kubernetes, knows a lot about Kubernetes. So this is definitely one you're going to want to sorry, not have to, but want to sign up for. And then wrapping things up, Steve and Adam are going to be talking about platform engineering, to adopt or not to adopt. And this one I'm very interested in because Steve has been in particular talking a lot with customers, writing a lot with to customers around platform engineering. And so that'll be really interesting to watch. And platform engineering is seen as like sort of the evolution of DevOps to some folks. It's sort of like DevOps 2.0. And you can read the literature behind it. There's a website that you can check out, which we've cited on this show many times. But if you want to get the skinny on what platform engineering is, you can check out this webinar. Speaking of
Awesome.
events, we have an event to announce. Shipped 23, octopus.com/shipped. We have only talked about this publicly once, and that was this morning. We're now talking about it twice. So, octopus.com/shipped is the website. It is November 15th. It's a virtual event and will feature a whole bunch of speakers from Octopus, including Paul, who's our founder and CEO, Colin, who's our senior vice president of product, our CTO, field CTO Bob, and many others, talking about a range of topics. And I'm super excited about this. I think this is awesome. We don't have all the speakers listed, by the way, so some other ones will come in as we go. But just to give you a sense of what you'll see, Paul's going to talk a little bit about. He'll give an overview of where we are, where we've been, where we're going, and sort of give his thoughts and opinions on CI/CD. Colin's going to give a general overview of product from Octopus from a product perspective and talk about the roadmap. And then, as an example, Bob's going to be talking about multi-tenancy architecture lessons learned. We've got sessions on multi-tenancy. We've got sessions on citing customer stories. We've got a whole bunch of stuff. The best way to find out about all of this stuff is to attend shipped. I'll try my best to pronounce it correctly. Ship 23. So, octopus.com/shipped. You can register now. So the button's right there. You can go ahead and register. And yeah, we announced this or shipped the site. This noun's gonna get really, really boring after a while for me. But we dropped this site internally yesterday, and a lot of folks were like, "Wow!" And yeah, I think the graphics cool, and I can't wait for this to happen. So November 15th,
Yeah, awesome. I was
awesome
wondering if
stuff.
you're going to announce that one.
Yes, of course. Why not? So we'll be talking about this publicly a little bit more. You'll start to see emails come out. You'll start to see social media. But for friends of the show and for friends of the webinars or attendees, we're letting kind of the cat out of the bag here. So go ahead and check it out. We hosted the community town hall this morning. So James, John, Bob, and Adam joined me to talk about a whole bunch of things. And I woke up at 4 a.m. for this, and we did this live with the audience there. And we talked about a whole bunch of different things, and talked about the webinars we had, the videos that we published, et cetera, et cetera. We cited some examples with Customize. We had a good conversation. So there was lots of stuff that we talked about, and we had some good examples there. So that was great. That's up on our YouTube channel. And speaking of Customize, this was an interview that I did with Yihao and Kit talking about Customize support in 2023.3. Customize is a way in which you can manage your configuration for Kubernetes clusters without having to use templates. It's built into kubectl and allows you to now integrate directly as part of your deployment process. So that's new, and I did an interview with them talking about that, which is great. And then we have another video, continuous deployment configuration for Kubernetes with Octopus Deploy. This is one where Kit and I talked a little bit about how you go about executing your Kubernetes deployments. This was a webinar that we conducted earlier this week. And we basically set the stage for a bunch of webinars that we'll be talking about. Talked about a range of topics, including monitoring, provisioning of clusters, etc. So it kind of sets the stage for the future conversation. And last, but certainly not least, Bob joined me to talk about 2023.3. So we went through basically the what's new list, and we talked about each one, and we did demos for each one. And so yeah, we had a good time just kind of showcasing or kicking the tires, so to speak, of each feature. And so Bob and I had a good time chatting about that. Bob's background is so good. So Bob is in the States, but it looks like he's in Brisbane every time I talk to him. Like, look how good that background is. It's flawless. Like he looks like he's there. Like, this is our office in Brisbane, and there's the tentacle coming down, and he looks like he's there, but he's not. This is like a perfectly curated photo of Bob's this is Bob's background. I love it. I think it's great.
I was trying to figure out how it was light in his background before when you had the webinar.
It matches perfectly. See how it comes down?
Yeah.
See how it shines?
Yeah.
That's why it looks so good, because it shines downward. And he did this so well. So good credit to him. That's the way you got to do it. Look, if you're working from home, fake it till you make it, right? So
100%.
All right, moving on to some of the industry news related to Octopus or maybe Octopus customers. How GitHub uses GitHub Actions and Actions larger runners to build and test GitHub.com. So they're eating their own dog food, which I think is a good thing. And so this is an article that goes through basically how they went through their CI process and they decided to leverage actions and in particular their larger runner feature. And this is a sort of like a worker, if you will, in for GitHub Actions. They go through the history of it. They talk about how they introduced larger runners. Larger runners are pretty beefy, and they did this to basically build out. So here are some of the raw numbers. Current peak utilization of our larger runners uses 4,500 concurrent 32 core runners, runs over 100,000 build minutes per hour, queues and runs approximately 15,000 jobs per within an hour, and then allocates over 150,000 cores of compute. They've got a beta of a custom VM image that they've introduced, and they're utilizing that as part of their build. And then some of the things that they cite, and these are important aspects of GitHub Actions. Reusable workflows, that's definitely something you should take advantage of because obviously it will save you a lot of time and headaches sometimes when you're utilizing those. But also when you're authoring your YAML, you don't have to write everything out. You can cite existing jobs, for example, and reusing workflows is going to be part of that. Reusing previous workflow outcomes, so you can actually have output from workflow runs within GitHub Actions and reutilize their outcomes directly as part of that, sort of like a cache value. Private service access. So this is another aspect that they utilize, and they talk about their support for OIDC tokens, which incidentally is coming to Octopus. We're working on it right now, and in addition to that, they cite their example that they used for basically scaffolding. Now, this is a gateway example that they have in their repo for showing that off. So basically, they're eating their own dog food, which I think is good. And if you're not using GitHub Actions, this might be a good sort of article to convince you to take the jump. And speaking of actions, if you go to github.com/marketplace and you search for Octopus or Octopus Deploy, doesn't matter, each will work. You'll see our actions. So we have 10 that are listed there. The ones that are the checkmark creator verified by GitHub, those are ours. So these are the ones that we built. And these allow you to do things like, install the CLI and then a bunch of other things like push package, create release, deploy release, both tented and untented, create zip packages, push build info, things like that. So these and other steps are available along with other ones from the community. So you can see some other ones that have been built historically. We also have this other one called wait, watch, and execution tasks. So Octopus Deploy has this notion of execution tasks when you run server tasks. Jim knows about this a lot. You get a server task ID as a result. And you can we have this little micro action that you can run that says wait or watch for that action to complete. And that's important sometimes because you want things to occur in a sequence. So that's another one that we wrote. So there you go.
I didn't know about that one, actually. Good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, we also support that as that's right. We also support that as part of the CLI as well. So this is going to be risky, but let's go ahead and do so. I'm going to fire up the terminal here, and if you fire up Octopus, it's risky because I haven't touched this in a couple of weeks. You can actually do, where is it here? Task. Yeah, so you can manage tasks. So if I say Octopus task, you can say that I can wait on certain tasks. So what this means is you can pipe these together. So you can say Octopus deploy, blah, blah, blah. And then you get a server task, and you can pipe that into Octopus task wait. And so you can say, look, deploy, then wait, because if you deploy, you can fire and forget if you wanted to, potentially. But you can also do a wait, then do something else. And so you can kind of, pipe these through to each other. And that's part of the CLI. Another random demo. There you go. Cool. GitHub Actions transitioning from Node 16 to Node 20. This is probably not going to hit everyone, but we have a lot of customers who use GitHub Actions. We use GitHub Actions extensively, and when this announcement came out, we're like, we gotta get to Node 20. So Node is the runtime environment that GitHub Actions uses when hosting TypeScript, JavaScript actions. And so Node 16 has reached end of life, and so they're going to be having all their actions run on Node 20 by spring. God, English is so hard. Spring 2024. And so what this means is you need to update your runner to utilize that. And so there in the configuration section of this, you'll see this little thing here. This is all you need to do to run against Node 20 inside your YAML description. So there's a section here for runs, and then you'll specify using. Be aware that obviously Node 20 is a little bit different than Node 16, but generally speaking, it should work. It should just work out of the box. It shouldn't be a problem. So just go through your actions, update them to Node 20, but start doing this now because they're going to be running out. Sorry, they're going to be killing this basically pretty soon. So there you go.
Big version bump.
It is, and I think it's because 17, 18, 19 weren't really super significant, and 20
Mm.
had some things also that I think they wanted to use. Not sure of the full story, but there you go. Friend of mine, Richard Campbell, good Canadian boy, down here in the bottom right, is interviewing a bunch of folks at the VS team. This is a sneak peek of their new mini series called Tea and Technology. So Richard's a big tea drinker, and he's basically interviewing a bunch of the big heavy hitters on the Visual Studio side. So you got Mads, you got James, you got David, Mark, Leslie, and Anthony, and Amanda Silver, of course, running the whole thing. So Richard's been graceful or gracious enough to help interview these folks. Richard's like, he's got a gift for the gab. He's co-host of .NET Rocks, on his radio. He's everywhere. He's the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. He and I signed each other's. Whenever his passport expires for New Zealand, he gets my wife to sign his passport application, and vice versa. My kids and their wife get him to sign theirs. So, anyways, I'm really happy that he's running this because he's a really good interviewer. He asks really good questions, and so this is the list of episodes. So got Mads up front. Talking about, Mads is well known for doing extensions and all kinds of stuff around VS. So he'd be talking about transforming ideas into features. I'm sure that, kind of talking about the appeal of VS, then elevating the inner loop experience, probably about debugging, the heart of VS Code core, mastering the debugging game. Leslie's going to be jumping on board talking about that. Creating mobile apps with Visual Studio, James Montenegro. He's very well known for creating mobile apps. He's been in this space forever, talking about Maui and other technologies as well. GitHub Copilot will be featuring Mark. I'll be talking about that a lot, and Visual Studio and .NET, and then wrapping things up to developer efficiency, AI assistance, and Microsoft DevBox, which we've talked about before. That's featuring Amanda Silver, who is very well known in Microsoft circles. So there you go. Tea and technology. Mine is going to be like beer and coffee.
Yeah,
and no
just
technology.
tea wouldn't be my first choice. I do like tea, but
beer and bits. How about beer and
yeah.
bits? There you go. I like it. Debugging Enhancements in .NET 8 by James Newton King. James is the original author of JSON.NET. He joined Microsoft and is on the team building that out. And this is a great, great article that I sent around internally today. Already got some feedback from folks saying, yes, thank you. So James talks about how in .NET 8 we're changing, Microsoft's changing a bunch of stuff to make it a little bit more user-friendly when it comes to debugging. So if you've ever hit this scenario where in .NET 7 or below, you've gone to inspect HP context, you get all these like descriptions of objects, but you have to drill deeply into them to get a sense of what's actually they're representing. And so in .NET 8, they're hoisting or elevating the properties that matter most to the properties that you're inspecting. And I think this is great. Tell me the news, not the weather, sort of approach, or do as I mean, not what I say. Yes, technically these are objects, but really what you want is this. And so throughout this article, James talks a lot about the stuff that you would typically target in .NET 8 and how debugging is getting better because of the changes that are made to each one of those areas. So as an example, MVC and Razor. So in .NET 7, this is what it used to look like. Totally opaque, weird, don't like it. Now in .NET 8, we're surfacing out the things that matter. So it's going to be a lot, glance and go, a lot better.
Looks like you could almost write a stub for it if you wanted to as well.
Well, I think it's good because I think folks are realizing, like, look, I have to do this all the time. I have to go in here and click and expand and click and expand, and every chevron that I see is just an obstacle in my way of the debugging experience. Like, get out of my way. Tell me what I want to know. Is CORS enabled or not? Sort of thing. So here's another example with logging. So these are the loggers that I have queued up or wired up, and then in .NET 8 it just elevates those and makes them more apparent. And I think this is the right approach. It's being far more practical relative to the developer experience. And so James talks about this, and if you want to check it out, it's up on the .NET blog. Now I know you're a Rider fan, so you don't care, but whatever.
We still debug HTTP context.
Yes, I know. HTTP context is gnarly because it holds all the heavyweight objects. So in
Yeah.
particular, request and response, but also the app. There's like 6 objects in there, right? There's like
Mm,
so they call it context. So if you ever hear the word context in a programming context, oh, there you go. Got meta now.
mm,
So if you ever hear the word context, you think of it like the oxygen you breathe, right? So every day you get up, you breathe in, you breathe out. You assume that oxygen is just around you to inhale and exhale, right? So context is kind of the same thing. It's what's around you from an ASP.NET perspective or web context or HTTP context, and you can reach up and touch it at any point deeply, in like in the bowels of a recursive function. You can still touch it. It's an intrinsic sort of object that you can always connect with, and it's available as part of the application space, if you will, the process space. You can just reach up and talk to it, and then that gets you access to the request, the response, a whole bunch of the app environment, things like that. And so contexts are very, very popular. It's very popular in frameworks, very popular in runtime environments. And ASP.NET Core is no different. They provide this sort of context level value that you can query. And so this is why they mention it first and foremost. Good stuff.
so must have been a headache to change. Imagine all of those references to it.
Yeah, knowing how backwards compatibility works within Microsoft, they care very deeply about it. I think that there might have been some very spirited arguments and conversations and debates had within Redmond about this. It's like we can't change that. We've already done this with .NET 7, But like I'm sure the argument was, yeah, but developers hate this. Like literally fire off like hit F5 and let's go through it. Now, okay, now find out what's the value of the HP requirement. Oh, okay, click, 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 click. And it's just, wouldn't you rather have it so you can just glance and like, oh, I got it. Yeah, bang, go. Like I think it makes a lot more sense. Now, these values are still present in the deeper levels of each of these objects, but what they've done, so some of this technology is built on what are called visualizers inside of VS. And I know about this because I built one way back in the day. And so you can change. This is targeting the API for the debugger in VS. And you can basically say, look, I know that you're a deeply nested object. Like, I know that you're this big object here thing, but the default property I want you to render is this thing. So what they've done is they've annotated these types in .NET to give the debugger more information about what to render when debugging. So you annotate your types with attributes, and you say, look, when the debugger inspects you, show them this, and that's how you do this. So if we wanted to, we could do this in, say, this is between Jim. Everyone watching this, just ignore Jim and I for a second. So we could do this in Octopus Deploy. If there are types that we commonly inspect in the debugger in Octopus Deploy, and we want to surface those values to the debugger, we can annotate the classes in our because we use .NET. We could annotate the classes in our framework to do that if we want.
Right. Okay. I thought they actually changed the objects.
No,
No,
no, no, no, no.
get,
This is just
get it
semantic
the
sugar
smart
on
way.
top of it.
Get it the
Yes,
smart
that's
way.
right. Yes, yeah, they did something smart. It's like Fredo from The Godfather. I'm smart. I know things. So yeah, so there you go. Debugging enhancements in .NET 8. Shifting gears to ChatGPT because everyone's using ChatGPT, I guess. This was announced just a few hours ago. ChatGPT can now search the web in real time. So this is a bit of a game changer because one of the common things that most people know about ChatGPT is that up until recently, I guess, it was limited to September 2021 data. And before, it knew about the internet back then, but anything that happened after that date, it didn't know about. So now you can actually pose questions and or prompts, and it will scour the internet and make those queries conducted. So, what is the newest album from ACD? I think we could probably come up with a better question than this, can't we, Microsoft? But there you go. Yeah, strong rumors circulating that ACDC is working on a new album. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
It's listening
Awesome.
in real time, one
Pretty
step
much.
closer to taking over the world.
That's right, Skynet.
I mean, it's
And
probably listening to us now, right? Like we're
yes, that's
live on the
right.
internet, so
Oh, of course, of course.
nothing
Nothing sacred. It's the
Yeah.
internet. Come on. But what's not lost on me is the irony of the fact that 26% of all top 100 websites are now blocking the GPT bot. So I thought
Yeah.
this was a perfect sort of segue. So they've added this ability to query the web, and a lot of websites are now blocking it. And incidentally, those websites have increased 250% over the past month. So Pinterest, Indeed, and more big brands are now blocking GPT bot. So yeah, these are some of the examples that are now blocking. So relative to us, Stack Exchange. I can't think of anything else that I would be interested in. Yeah, that's the big one. So there you go. I
Yeah.
just thought that was funny.
It is. It is.
What's new in MSIX? This is the packaging tool for Microsoft. The reason why I mention this is because a lot of people use MSIs. A lot of our customers use MSIs. And this continues to be evolved. We use MSIs, we support them. If you're doing deployment, you obviously want to use them. And so, just to kind of highlight what's new, so this is a blog post that was written just the other day. Automated accelerators. So, this is something that they added in June 2023. And so, this is the easy button for converting apps. So, the easy conversion of legacy apps to MSIX. To address this, we're thrilled to introduce accelerators. Accelerator is a file that enables an efficient way to convert legacy apps into the MSIX format. So the packaging tool now allows users to input accelerators in the conversion process. So that is now official in this latest update, and these are automated as part of this. First run tasks. The MSIX packaging tool now allows you to maintain the order of first run tasks. This is nice because obviously when doing an installation and you want to have certain order of things occurring, being able to control that is going to be important. So you're converting an app that has multiple shortcuts. You can choose the default entry point for your app to access this feature, blah, blah, blah. So this is another thing that's there. VS extension for app attach, local attach in the previous update, which I guess was a big one. We also introduced the VS app attach extension. This tool streamlines your workflow by enabling you to create VHD images and publish them to your AVD host pool, all directly from within VS. So that's nice. And so these and other features are now available as part of the latest MSIX updates. So there you go.
Nice. I don't think about that much, but sounds like a good update.
I don't know if you are locked or. Oh, there you go.
Am
You're
I
back.
back? Am
Sorry.
I back? Yeah.
You said stuff and then you froze. Sorry. Continue. What were you saying?
I was just saying, I don't think about oversize much, but that sounds like some really good updates.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, GitLab versus GitHub. Fight, fight, fight. Choosing the right service control, version control service. This is from our friends over at Circle CI. And yeah, if you're interested in kind of duking it out, be my guest. But I mention it here because a lot of people talk about it. I've used both. I prefer GitHub. I like the look of GitHub better than GitLab. I think GitLab looks a little rough, but that's just me. I know that a lot of folks use GitLab. They love GitLab, and GitLab is coming on strong. We've talked about GitLab constantly on this show, even though we talk about GitHub a lot. But they are a good competitor, and I think that if you're using GitLab, I don't think you're making a bad choice. I just prefer GitHub myself, and it goes through all the list of comparisons here. So integrations, prices, role of CI/CD. I think the winning. I don't know if this author mentions it, but I think that one of the things that really spoke out to me was the marketplace. So if you look at the GitHub marketplace today, how many actions do we have in this thing? 17,000, 20,000. We have 20,000 actions. Now, GitLab, if I remember correctly, just added in version 16 dot whatever, its support for CI/CD components. They just added this, which I assume is the similar as like GitHub Action, controls, components, whatever you want to call them. So I think that that's definitely a tick in the box of GitHub's column, if you ask me. I think that GitLab does depend a lot on containers, far more than GitHub does. GitHub's container support is there. It's fine. You can use them in action runs and all that. But I think GitLab takes it to the extreme. And then DevSecOps is something that they talk about a lot relative to GitLab, that is. So what do you think? You,
Yeah,
you think
they seem to
GitLab
have a
is.
lot of. I mean, I like GitHub too, But I think GitLab's got a lot of support in really niche areas, like people who like security tend to like GitLab, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, yep. Yeah, so just kind of rounding out that last point there about the integration. I think I gotta quickly find it here. It's like 16 dot whatever. They talk about it here somewhere. So if you take a look at CI, generally speaking, you have to write these yourself, and there's not a lot of there isn't this notion of components or actions or whatever you want to call them for creating a pipeline, basically. Um, and I think they just added this recently. I don't know if they'll mention it here, but it is on their release notes if you take a look at it.
Yeah.
So I have to read up more about it. But there you go. There's the shootout. So awesome stuff. Anyways, there you go, Jim. Another episode of Deploy on Friday is in the books. Thanks again for joining. Really appreciate it. Any parting words as we round out this last episode?
No, all out of wisdom today. That's it. I'm going to fix my certificates.
God, yes, and your password. There you go. You come
Yeah,
full
exactly.
circle. All right. Well, so for those folks who are watched to the end, if you've stumbled upon this episode and think there's something that we should talk about, feel free to let us know in the comments section below. We really appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one. We'll see you on the next episode.